Hello. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Shirley TV. Yeah, welcome back. So, subscribe to the channel, like this video. Yes, like this video, subscribe to my channel. And today, I just want to get into this second lawsuit. For Mr. Sean Combs, a.k.a. P. Diddy of Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, and Combs Enterprises, LLC. So I just want to dive into this lawsuit. It was filed on here. It was received 11/23/2023. In the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of New York. Excuse me. And yes, this was filed a day before the statute of limitations. So I believe the statute of limitations was 11/24/2023. So let's get into it. So upon this summons, this complaint, this lawsuit, the summons, it states that plaintiff designates New York County as the place of trial. The basis of venue is the place of venue is location of incidents. The location of incidents was New York. So let's just dive into this lawsuit, and this is 22 pages. So the other lawsuit, Sean Puffy Combs, I don't know the exact name, but Sean Puffy Combs versus Cassandra Ventura. So I think that was 35 pages, but this is a little shorter, 22, but that's okay. Let's get into it. So I always find these lawsuits fascinating because, to my opinion, you learn a lot. So this is basically also considered a contract. So when it comes to, law, a contract. So this is a contract, and I am currently enrolled in several law courses. So law is my major, and I also took business law when I received my degree, my Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, Strayer University. So I did take a business law course, and I'm currently taking a couple of law courses now just to enhance my degree. So you will see on my channel, my content will be geared toward, business, anything concerning business, anything current in the news that relates to business. So lawsuits, you may see me covering lawsuits, restraining orders, prenuptial agreements, different things that I could get. If I could get my hand on it, then I will present it on my channel. So I'll be talking about contracts, marketing, advertising, and promoting, trademarks, copyrights, patents, starting a business, how to start a business, what inventory you may need, different things, anything pertaining to business, law, or accounting. Anything pertaining to business, law, or accounting, and, current events in the news that pertains to law. So let's get into this lawsuit. So I just, I was just curious to know what's in it. So let's get started. So Joey, that sounds like Joey Dickerson. Joey Dickerson Neal is the plaintiff. So the plaintiff is the one that's bringing the complaint, bringing the, the lawsuit. That is the plaintiff. Then we have the defendant. So we have the plaintiff, Joey Dickerson Neal. Then we have the plaintiff against Sean Combs, a.k.a. P. Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Combs Enterprises, LLC, defendants. Well, it has a plural on defendants, so I assume, to me it seems like she is suing him. Yes, it seems to me that she is suing him and all his companies, all his businesses. So that's why I say defendants with an S on the end. In other words, she's suing Sean Combs, a.k.a. P. Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainment, and Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, and Combs Enterprises, LLC. So he does have a limited liability company. So let's get into it. So it says, to the above named defendants. So to the above named defendants, you are hereby summoned to answer the complaint in this action and to serve a copy of your answer, or if the complaint is not served with this summons, to serve a notice of appearance on the plaintiff's attorneys within 20 days after the service of this summons. So he definitely has 20 days to respond to this summons upon her attorneys. So he have to respond to this summons, with her attorney. So 9 times out of 10, he will recruit his own attorney. So maybe his attorney, I don't know if it's going to be like an online, online session, or he has to go to the office to meet with her attorney. So 9 times out of 10, he may take his own attorney with him. So let's get back into it. So it says, you are hereby summoned to answer this complaint in this action, and to serve a copy of your answer, or if the complaint is not served with a summons, to serve a notice of appearance on the plaintiff's attorney. So he has to, serve his answer with her attorney. So then there's all these signatures, Phillips and Associates, attorneys at law, PLLC. So Michelle Kayola, Esquire, Jonathan Goldhurst, Esquire, attorneys for the plaintiff. So they are located, the attorneys for the plaintiff, they are located in New York, 45 Broadway, Suite 330, New York. So let's get down into it. So it says Supreme Court of the State of New York County. So New York County, Joey Dickerson, Neal, plaintiff against Sean Combs, P. Diddy, a.k.a. P. Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Combs Enterprises, LLC. So let's see what the plaintiff is alleging of Mr. Sean Combs, a.k.a. P. Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainment. So let's see what Miss Joey Dickerson Neal is alleging. So these are all allegations. So this is in a civil court. This would be like a civil trial, not a criminal case. So in civil law, the plaintiff usually will seek money damages as opposed to a criminal trial, criminal case, a lot of times they're dealing with lockups or other remedies. But in the civil court, civil law, you're dealing with money damages, punitive damages, compensatory damages. So punitive damages serves as, when you get, when the plaintiff gets funded for, punishing is geared toward punishing the defendant. Then we have compensatory damages that compensates the victim. So let's get on into this. So plaintiff Joy Dickerson, Neal, plaintiff, by and through her attorneys. So she has, look like she has like at least three attorneys. So it says by and through her attorneys, Phillips and Associates, PLLC, hereby alleges and avers, I don't know what this is, hereby alleges and avers the defendant Sean Combs, a.k.a. P. Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Combs Enterprises, LLC, collectively defendants, alleges upon information and belief as to all other matters as follows. Nature of the action. So let's get into the nature of this action. So what the plaintiff is alleging, the nature of the action. Plaintiff brings suit against defendants to redress the substantial and lifetime injuries she has suffered as a result of being drugged, actually assaulted and abused, and being I stopped that because I just glanced at my other phone because that message came through. But it said plaintiff brings suit against defendants to redress the substantial and lifetime injuries. So she suffered lifetime injuries. She suffered as a result of being drugged and assaulted and abused and being the victim of revenge porn that Sean Combs or P. Diddy created and distributed. So these are allegations, these are serious allegations. So she's accusing him of, allegedly, creating her lifetime injuries that, she suffered as a result of being drugged, being abused and assaulted, and victim of revenge porn. So let's get back into it. Plaintiff complains pursuant to the New York common law, New York's, I don't know if this is social serve law, New York Services for Victims of Human Trafficking law, New York State Civil Rights law. So they are citing the different laws that these allegations apply to, So the allegations from the, the plaintiff. So it says plaintiff complains pursuant to the New York common law. So she, the law that deals with New York Services for Victims of Human Trafficking, Civil Rights law, the New York State Revenge Porn law, Civil Rights law. And then we have the New York State Revenge Porn law. We have the Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act, and New York City Admin Code, the New York City Revenge Porn law. Yeah, so I don't know what's going on, but that's outside. But I just heard some noise out there, but let me get back into it. So then it says seeks damages. So she's seeking damages to redress the injuries she suffered as a result of being, harassed, abused, and a victim of revenge porn. Preliminary statement. So a preliminary statement, Joy Dickerson was a college student at Syracuse University pursuing a degree in psychology and filled with hopes for a brighter future. While Ms. Dickerson did not come from a family with means, she was raised by a single mother who instilled in her high moral and ethical standards and a strong sense of civic duty. She was whip smart, beautiful, and aware that her good reputation was an important asset to be safeguarded. So let's get into it. On January 3rd, 1991. So I guess this is, I don't know if this is the date that the alleged incident happened. I assume this may be, but it says on January 3rd, 1991, while on school break for the holidays, Miss Dickerson reluctantly agreed to an early dinner with Sean Combs or P. Diddy. They had many friends and acquaintances in common and she had appeared with Combs in a few clips of a music video. After dining at the famous Wells restaurant in Harlem, home of chicken and waffles since 1938, Combs pushed Miss Wells to keep him company as he attended to a few things in the city. And it says, getting into Combs' car that day was something Miss Dickerson would come to regret forever. During their date, Combs had intentionally drugged Miss Dickerson, resulting in her being in a physical state where she could not independently stand or walk. Driving first to a music studio where she could not get out of the car. She couldn't even get out of the car because she was drugged. So these are all allegations from the plaintiff. Let's move on. Combs proceeded to a place he was staying to, assault her as was his practice. But unbeknownst to Miss Dickerson, Combs' video recorded the whole encounter. Days later, a male friend revealed to her that he had viewed the encounter along with other men. Horrified, Miss Dickerson asked how many others saw it, to which he responded, everyone. So in other words, these allegations, this assault happened, and according to Miss Dickerson, it was being recorded. Miss Dickerson's life went into a tailspin. She returned to college, but soon had to be admitted into the hospital for severe depression and suicide ideation. I don't know what that is. Never heard that word for ideation. Unable to function. So we're going on page 4. Unable to function. She had to drop out of college. Dropped out of college. Miss Dickerson had struggled with her mental health and career progression thereafter. The assault and public exposure of it caused her to suffer overwhelming feelings of humiliation, embarrassment, violation, and constant apprehension about who all viewed it. As Combs' success and wealth rose quickly, she tried to block his existence out as she tried to put her life back on track. She, in other words, she's still today. So today, it says still today, Miss Dickerson continues to work on her emotional health, economic recovery, and finishing her college degree. Seeking accountability from Combs under the law is one more step in that journey. What? So let's keep it moving. Procedural requirements, state and city claims revived by the Adult Survivors Act. Right, because the Adult Survivors Act, I think 11/24/2023 was supposed to be the last day, so the statute of limitations had ran out that day, So that's why, the lawsuits were put in before 11/24/2023. Plaintiff state law claims are timely under New York's Adult Survivors Act, right, Adult Survivors Act, which beginning on November 24th, right, as I stated, 2022. So it began November 24th, 2022, right? So it was like a year after the statute of limitations ran out. I think they gave it like another year. So it says it created a 1-year look-back window for the survivors of assault that occurred when they were over the age of 18, allowing them to sue their abusers regardless of when the abuse occurred. So that's pretty good. Gave them more time, no matter what time, when the abuse occurred, because in other words, the abuse could have been 20 years back, but they just gave them that one last year to, file their lawsuit, their complaint. It says the ASA allows survivors to sue for any intentional or negligent acts or omissions by a person for physical, psychological, or other injury or condition suffered as a result of conduct which will constitute an offense as defined in Article 130 of the Penal Law committed against such person who was 18 years of age or older. So this is New York. So this was filed in New York. Plaintiff is a woman who is older than 18 who alleges penal law violations, including but not limited to New York Penal L. Then we have the New York Penal L, different numbers. So all these are New York penal codes, I guess. So let's move on to, okay, page 5. So like I said, this lawsuit is 22 pages. Courts have found that the ASA receives any civil claims that arise from conduct that constitutes a offense. Wilkie versus Bill Hempstead, 2023 U.S. District, Lexus, June 20th, 2023, holding that a plaintiff could bring false arrest and false imprisonment claims under the ASA as those particular claims arise from conduct that constitutes a offense. Okay, it says, thus, plaintiff's claims under the New York common law, the New York Services for Victims of Human Trafficking law, the New York State Revenge Porn law, and the New York City Revenge Porn law have been revived under the ASA as they arise out of conduct that constitute the offenses. So let's move on down. It says the New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protecting Act. It says the New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act, New York City Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act created a look-back window on March the 1st, 2023, which runs for 2 years for survivors of gender-motivated violence, allowing them to sue their abusers regardless of when the abuse occurred. New York City Administration Code. So in other words, the Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act. So I guess it doesn't make a difference what gender the defendant is. So the gender, it says the Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act. So let's keep it moving. The New York City Gender Motivated Violence Act revives any claims against a party who commits, directs, enables, participates in, or conspires in the commission of a crime of violence motivated by gender has a cause of action against such party in any court of competent jurisdiction. Any court of competent jurisdiction. So in other words, the court, I guess that means that, you know, that particular court has the authority, has the right to be able to bring this particular case in their courtroom. Some courts don't have jurisdiction to hear certain cases. So that's what that is about. It says the party in any court of competent jurisdiction. And let's move on down. The appellate division has held that the assault is an act of gender-motivated violence under the law as coerced activity is dehumanizing and fear-inducing. Malice or ill will based on gender is apparent from the alleged commission of the act itself. Animus inheres where consent is absent. So let's get into it. This is number 12. The above described conduct of defendant Combs, including but not limited to defendant's physical and the assaults of the plaintiff in New York City, constitutes a crime of violence and a crime of violence motivated by gender against plaintiff as defined by the New York City Gender Motivated Violence Act. So defendant are Combs, Sean Puffy Combs. So Sean Combs, a.k.a. P. Diddy or Puff Daddy or Diddy, is a Grammy Award musician at all relevant times. Combs was a resident of New York State prior to the release of Combs' debut album in 1997. Combs was a prominent member of the New York hip-hop community. From 1990 to 1993, Combs was known for working as a talent director at Uptown Records. Combs also known for throwing parties that attracted thousands of attendees, including the who's who of the hip-hop world. In 1992, Combs founded Defended Bad Boy Records. In 2008, Combs was the first male rapper to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Right? I didn't know he had a Hollywood, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but he did. That was 2008. 2022, Forbes estimated that Combs was one of the wealthiest hip-hop artists in America and that his net worth was over $1 billion. That was as of 2022, so that was like last year. So we're moving into 2024, but so it still was 2022 because we're still in 2023. Upon information and belief, Combs has a history of committing physical and violence against women as documented in publicly available lawsuits and extensive media coverage. Right, so, that's all we hear on, YouTube just has everything on everybody, everything that's current in the news. You can look to YouTube, I don't even have to look at the news like ABC, NBC, CBS, news. I don't even have to look at the news on those channels. I just look at YouTube and I look at various people's channels and they always have, current events going on, news, updated news. So let's get into it. Now, let's going down. This is page 7. So it says, Defended Bad Boy Entertainment. In 1992, Combs founded Bad Boy Records, a record label which has sold over 500 million records, and where he produced Mary J. Blige, the notorious B.I.G., and Usher. Bad Boy Entertainment is a domestic limited liability company licensed to do business in New York. Defended Combs Enterprises LLC. So these are just as explaining his businesses. So we had Defended Bad Boy Entertainment, and then we have Defended Combs Enterprises LLC. Combs Enterprises LLC is a domestic liability license to do business in New York. Upon information and belief, Combs Enterprise LLC is the parent company of Bad Boy Entertainment. Combs Enterprise LLC is a business conglomerate founded by P. Diddy that does business in the music, entertainment, fashion, spirits, and television industries. So let's go to page 8, and we're talking about the factual allegations to this lawsuit, to this complaint by the plaintiff. Plaintiff grew up in New York City and was raised by a single mother. So we're talking about Sean Puffy Combs grew up in New York City and was raised by a single mother. So he did pretty well for himself, even though he was raised by a single mother. In 1987, plaintiff began attending Syracuse University the plaintiff began attending Syracuse University as she was, inspired to attend after, it said the plaintiff grew, the plaintiff, that is Miss Dickerson, Miss Dickerson is a plaintiff, But it said the factual allegations. Plaintiff, that's Miss Dickerson, she grew up in New York City and was raised by a single mother. 1987. In 1987, the plaintiff began attending Syracuse University as she was inspired to attend after hearing stories about her late father who had attended the university and had the same year she was born. Plaintiff majored in psychology. So the plaintiff majored in psychology. Plaintiff was a hardworking student who balanced her studies. Plaintiff was looking to make a foothold in the music industry and had worked as a receptionist at Apple One, a renowned talent agency, and as a location scout for Gary Brewer, an industry cameraman. Plaintiff also collaborated with Chuck Stone, a film director, on music videos for Grammy Award-winning artists. A Tribe Called Quest and Miso de Garcello. And then now we're talking about the plaintiff, not the plaintiff, but the defendant. Plaintiff met Sean Combs and learned of his reputation for abusing women. It says, on repeated occasions, Combs pursued plaintiff for a romantic or relationship. However, plaintiff had heard that Combs had a history of treating women badly and rejected Combs' advances each time. So she heard about Mr. Combs, treating women badly. So she rejected his advances. And I guess, in the beginning, it says, in fact, Sister Soldier, a rapper from the Bronx, pointedly asked plaintiff why she and Combs had been featured together in the same music video for Straight from the Soul by Finesse and Senegal. So let's move on down. Plaintiff understood that Sister Soldier was warning her to stay away from Combs, given his infamous reputation. So in other words, she had in fact, I guess she ran across someone that told her to stay away from Mr. Combs because of his reputation. Okay, number nine, let's see. It said plaintiff reluctantly agreed to go on a date with Combs, who, so I don't know what, okay, there's a date on there. Okay, it says, right, this was filed 11/23/2023 at 2:42 in the afternoon, 2:42 p.m. So it says plaintiff reluctantly agreed to go on a date with Mr. Combs. Finally, on January the 1st, 1991, during her winter break, Ms. Dickerson reluctantly agreed to meet Combs in New York City. Again, wary of being alone with Combs, plaintiff chose Will's Restaurant in Harlem. So it's a lot of typos in this, but I'm just trying to read it as I see, not as I see it, but, as if I'm correcting it. I'm editing it, correcting the English. Again, wary of being alone with Combs, plaintiff she chose. They have choose, but it says she should be plaintiff chose. Plaintiff chose Will's Restaurant in Harlem, New York, which was a familiar environment as she worked there as a server and knew the employees. At Will's, plaintiff began to feel more comfortable as her and Combs engaged in conversation over food and drinks. Later in the evening, plaintiff had to utilize the restroom and left her drink unattended. Combs indicated he did not want the date to end and asked plaintiff to join him in doing some errands. He had to run around the city. While driving with Combs in his car, Combs produced and asked plaintiff to take, a puff. Plaintiff politely declined, but Combs was insistent that plaintiff should roll with him. So in other words, he was trying to, allegedly trying to get her to smoke with him. So I'm not going to read all of this because I'm just on page 9. So I just wanted to read some of the allegations. That's what I wanted to read. So where did I stop at? It says, Combs indicated, it says late in the evening she had to utilize the restroom. Right, she went to the restroom. So she sat down there, had dinner with him. Then she had to use the restroom. So she, excused herself from the table. It says Combs indicated he did not want the date to end. And then she said, while driving home, these are all allegations. These are all allegations in this complaint, this lawsuit. So while driving home, well, while driving with Combs in his car, Combs produced, and he was trying to get her to smoke with him. Plaintiff politely declined. Feeling pressured, plaintiff reluctantly took a hit on the, on the cigarette. And then it says, from that point on, plaintiff's memory is incomplete. So I want to get something to drink real quick, so just a minute. So let me see where I stopped at. Okay. So it says, feeling pressured. In other words, she felt a little pressured. So in other words, she had dinner with Mr. Puffy Combs. Excuse me, she had dinner with him, and then he was trying to get her to smoke. So reluctantly, she, engaged in smoking with him, all these allegations. And then from that point, plaintiff's memory is incomplete. Plaintiff recalls Combs bringing her to a music studio, and when she attempted to exit the car, her legs felt rubbery and she was unable to stand. Plaintiff next recalls being outside of a residence where it seemed Combs was living, except he rang the doorbell. A man who was an acquaintance of both plaintiff and Combs answered the door. Plaintiff recalls that being odd, as she believed, perhaps mistakenly, that it was Combs. So page 10. So on page 10, while in the home, so in other words, she, they had dinner, they had a little smoke, all these allegations in this complaint, in this lawsuit. So, had dinner, then they headed somewhere in someone's home, and then Mr. Combs rang the doorbell, and it says, while in the home, Combs assaulted the plaintiff. Plaintiff recalls feeling humiliated and hurt, yet she could not escape the assault because she had been drugged. Plaintiff lacked the physical ability or mental capacity to fend Combs off. Right, so she's saying that, these allegations, the allegations of assault by Mr. Puffy Combs. It says the next day, plaintiff, she was, sore, and that she had never experienced from any prior consensual encounter. Feeling confusion, pain, embarrassment, and shame, plaintiff did not go to the hospital or report the assault to the police and sought revenge. No, she sought refuge in her apartment, avoiding any outside contact. The next day, plaintiff broke down and tearfully recalled Combs. She recalled Combs, and he assaulted her. And she told her best friend. So these are all allegations. It said the next day, plaintiff broke down and tearfully recalled Combs. Recalled Combs' assault to her best friend. So in other words, she told her best friend what had happened. Told her best friend about the assault. Shortly thereafter, Devontae Swing, a member of R&B group Jodeci, told plaintiff that Combs had filmed himself assaulting plaintiff and had shown the video to Swing and others while working at the studio. Plaintiff asked Swing who had seen the video, and he replied, everyone. Plaintiff was mortified as she learned that Combs had filmed the assault and knew it would haunt her for the rest of her life and career. So this is, these are allegations, lawsuit, complaint. So Miss Dickerson versus Sean Puffy Combs. Jodeci was in the midst of recording their studio album Forever Lady, for which Combs was doing A&R. So let's go down to page 10. It says, following Combs' assault, plaintiff suffered an emotional breakdown. So in other words, the assault, you know, it gave her an emotional breakdown. So in the coming weeks, plaintiff did her best to pull herself together so she could return to Syracuse University. So she wanted to return to Syracuse University to complete her college studies, her university studies. Despite this, plaintiff experienced traumatic flashbacks to the assault, extreme sleeplessness for days on end, social withdrawal, and would recall even the most basic physical touch. And this is number 66, item 66. Plaintiff felt physically unable to leave her dorm at Haven Hall, thus she was frequently absent from her classes. Plaintiff also had an inability to focus and concentrate as her mind constantly replayed Combs' assault, leading her grades to plummet. So in other words, she started, you know, she was attending Syracuse University, so she couldn't go back. She went back, but she really couldn't focus on her studies. So her grades began to, you know, fall down. Plaintiff's mother grew so concerned with plaintiff's sudden downturn in her emotional state and her repeated assertions that she no longer wanted to live. Thus, plaintiff's mother instructed her to go to the emergency room. Plaintiff was admitted into a psychiatric unit to treat her emotional trauma, and her physicians diagnosed her as experiencing clinical depression. After the plaintiff was discharged, she continued to experience emotional turmoil as everyday interactions triggered memories of the assault. Plaintiff also became socially isolated as her classmates labeled her crazy as they learned of her admission in the psychiatric unit. So plaintiff sought justice against Combs for assaulting her. As plaintiff began to recover, she desperately sought to hold Combs to account for the crimes he committed against her. Plaintiff's mom told her to contact Pastor Calvin Butts of the historic Abyssinian Church in Harlem, New York. However, plaintiff felt too ashamed to speak with Pastor Butts as she worried he would judge her. So a lot of times when things like this happen, you know, well, these are allegations, you know, innocent, so the defendant is innocent until proven guilty. So I just want to see how things are going to play out. I will follow this lawsuit, so we don't know if it's going to be settled like the Cassie Ventura lawsuit, or we don't know if this is going to go to the civil trial. So we have to wait and see how things will pan out, you know, the end result. So let's read on. Number 75, item 75. Members of law enforcement told plaintiff that her allegations would need to be corroborated by witnesses and others who had experienced similar assaults. Plaintiff also approached various friends, acquaintances, and colleagues to assist her in locating the revenge porn tape. And it also says colleagues told plaintiff that they were terrified that Combs would retaliate. Excuse me. So colleagues, her friends and stuff, told her that they was afraid that Combs, you know, Puppy Combs would retaliate. Combs had experienced, it's almost bedtime. Combs had experienced great success with the launch of the career of the notorious B.I.G., whose hit single Juicy had charted on Billboard. Some potential witnesses were afraid of Combs' wrath, as he was known to be violent, while others declined because they feared they would not be invited to his future parties and events. It says Combs tried to dissuade plaintiff from reporting him. Despite her emotional pain, plaintiff continued Plaintiff continued to work in the music industry and began working for stress management. DJ management company that represented DJ, Funkmaster, Flex, and others. At Stress Management, plaintiff's supervisor was Jessica Rosenblum, who was known for creating Mecca, a party series where many of New York's hip-hop legends performed. Plaintiff helped promote Rosenblum's parties and also acted as her personal assistant by completing any errands she had. So let's go. This is item 83. One night, plaintiff was working at one of Rosenblum's parties when she unfortunately ran into Combs and did her best to avoid talking with him. Despite plaintiff's efforts, Combs backed plaintiff into a corner and inappropriately confronted her in public. Combs dramatically got down on his knees before insisting that he wanted her to believe him when he said he did not do what she was saying. Rosenblum noticed Combs' odd behavior and asked why he was begging her for forgiveness. So in other words, begging her for forgiveness, based on these allegations, so it's number 87, item 87. Plaintiff merely told Rosenblum that Combs had wronged her, as she was afraid of divulging more, as Rosenblum often worked with Diddy. So let's go to the next item. Plaintiff left the music industry as Diddy's rise was too painful to witness. So in other words, she left the industry. She's broken and hurt, she's broken and hurt from these allegations. To her, they are real, but to us, these are allegations because we were not there. And then also, in the United States of America, you are innocent until proven guilty. What? Yeah, so innocent until proven guilty. So it says, as the defendant's career began to rise, Miss Dickerson said she couldn't watch that, So it says plaintiff left the music industry. So she left the music industry. It says after working for Stress Management, plaintiff began writing music video treatments. However, plaintiff realized that she could not continue to work in the music industry as Combs' star continued to rise and his presence was inescapable. So in other words, his presence was inescapable. At probably every corner she turned, every place she went, she ended up seeing him. So she left the music industry. Plaintiff had always wanted to work at a record label, but she knew that dream had catered. That dream had, I don't know the word they were trying to say, but the dream had something as Combs continued to garner multi-platinum albums and win Grammys. And it said plaintiff's emotional trauma resurges. Plaintiff had spent years trying to recover from the emotional trauma she experienced at Combs' hands. So emotional trauma, she had trouble, her grades started falling at Syracuse University. So she had to leave school. She had to leave the music industry. So let's move down to page 14. It was the filming of the lawsuit about his abuse of Cassie Ventura on November the 16th, 2023, that forced her to face his assault again. After reading about the lawsuit, plaintiff spoke to an ex-boyfriend for the first time in years after reading Miss Ventura's lawsuit. So she's talking about Cassie's lawsuit against P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Cassie Ventura. So, we know that lawsuit was just settled about a week ago. During their conversation, plaintiff's ex recalled how she would become physical physically ill and recalled every time Combs' music was played or his name was mentioned. Still hoping for justice. Plaintiff still hoping for justice. Plaintiff brings this case against Combs now. It says, while many years have passed, Combs' illegal conduct has cast a shadow over her life. Years later, plaintiff has continued to seek mental health providers who have aided in her recovery and treated her PTSD. Tragically, despite several attempts, plaintiff has not been able to finish her college degree as her subconscious associates her studies with the assault. So in other words, she, keep thinking about this assault. She, now she has PTSD because of these allegations Sean Puffy Combs placed on her, these horrific acts placed on her. Tragically, despite several attempts, the plaintiff has not been able to finish her college degree. Combs' conduct forever changed the trajectory of her career, denying her what might have been a lucrative and successful career in the music industry. So, it seems like Cassie Ventura, she was in the music industry, and now Miss Dickerson, she was in the music industry. So let's move down to the causes of action. Causes of action as a first cause of action. Assault and battery under the New York common law. Plaintiff reiterates, and realleges each and every allegation made in the above paragraphs of this complaint as if more fully set forth herein at length. So we're on page 15. In performing the conduct described above, defendant Combs committed assault and battery against plaintiff because he intentionally engaged in unlawful, intentional, and offensive touching or application of force to plaintiff person. Defendant's actions amount to violations under, the New York Penal. So all these are New York Penal codes, 130.25, 130.40, 130.50. So in other words, assault and battery. So assault and battery. So it says, defendant Combs committed assault and battery against plaintiff because he intentionally engaged in unlawful, intentional, and offensive touching. Unlawful. He intentionally engaged in unlawful, intentional, and offensive touching. Right. So assault and battery. So assault and battery. So if you bring a lawsuit against somebody, based on assault and battery, right, you can collect money damages. So it's a civil lawsuit in civil courts, So in other words, somebody puts you in fear and apprehension. In other words, you tell somebody, or somebody tell you, hey, I'm going to bust you in your face. And then you get scared. That's fear. That's the assault. Well, if they actually hit you, then that would be the battery. So a lot of times they do come together, assault and battery. So assault and battery. And then you can sue for money damages in a civil court, a civil lawsuit. So as a result of defendant Combs' alleged conduct, plaintiff has suffered physical injuries, severe emotional distress, humiliation, embarrassment, anxiety, economic harm, and other consequential damages. And I want to collect damages. So in other words, she has decided that she wants them to collect damages. Probably punitive, not pensive, but punitive and punitive. That means to punish the plaintiff. And compensatory, to compensate the victim, right? So the conduct of defendant Combs is described above as willful, wanton, and malicious. Right, it was willful, wanton, and malicious. At all relevant times, Combs acted with conscious disregard of plaintiff's rights and feelings, acted with the knowledge of or with reckless disregard for the fact that his conduct was certain to cause injury and or humiliation to plaintiff, and intended to cause fear, physical injury, and or pain and suffering to plaintiff. By virtue of the foregoing, plaintiff is entitled to recover punitive or exemplary damages from defendant Combs at trial. The punitive punishes geared toward punishing the defendant. And exemplary damages, yes, as a second cause of action, intentional infliction of emotional distress under the New York common law against the defendants. So it says plaintiff repeats and realleges each and every allegation made in the above paragraph of this complaint. What? Defendant Combs engaged in outrageous conduct by unlawfully administering to plaintiff a narcotic or intoxicating substance, transporting her, forcing her to engage in, creating a video recording of the encounter, and distributing the, that's page 16, distributing the recording throughout New York State without her consent. Defendant Combs' actions were intended to cause harm to the plaintiff or recklessly disregarded the substantial possibility of causing plaintiff severe emotional distress. As a result of defendant Combs' alleged conduct, plaintiff has suffered physical injuries, severe emotional distress, humiliation, embarrassment, anxiety, economic harm, and other consequential damages. So as the third cause of action, so there are three causes of action. So the third cause of action is trafficking under the New York Services for Victims of Human Trafficking law. Plaintiff repeats and realleges each and every allegation made in the above paragraph of this complaint. Plaintiff is a victim of trafficking within the meaning of the New York penal law. Defendants unlawfully administered to plaintiff a narcotic or intoxicating substance in New York State, transported her, forced her to engage in, and made a video recording of the revenge porn, which he distributed throughout New York State, all without her consent. So let me see, we are on number 114, as a direct and proximate result of defendant's unlawful conduct as alleged herein above, plaintiff has suffered physical injury, severe emotional distress, and anxiety, humiliation, embarrassment, post-traumatic stress disorder, emotional harm, and other consequential damages. Plaintiff seeks reasonable attorney's fees and litigation costs, including but not limited to expert witness fees and expenses as provided by New York. As a third cause of action, so we're on page 17. So it says New York State revenge porn law. This is the, I think they said this was the third, is this the third cause of action? Hold up. Yes, this is the third cause of action. So the third cause of action, New York State revenge porn law. Plaintiff repeats, reiterates, and realleges each and every allegation set forth above with the same force and effect as if more fully set forth herein. New York State Civil Rights Law, Chapter 6, Article 5, New York's law against revenge porn provides in pertinent part that any person depicted in a still or a video image, regardless of whether or not the original still or video image was consensually obtained, shall have a cause of action against an individual who, for the purpose of harassing, annoying, or alarming such person, disseminated or published, or threatened to disseminate or publish such still or video image where such image was taken when such person had a reasonable expectation that the image would remain private. And B, depicts an unclothed or exposed intimate part of such person, or such person engaging in conduct as defined in subdivision 10 of section 130 of the penal law with another person, and C, was disseminated or published or threatened to be disseminated or published without the consent of such person. So we're going to number 118. Plaintiff repeats and realleges each and every allegation made in the above paragraphs of this complaint. Plaintiff was depicted in a video image in which Combs engaged in with her as defined under the New York penal law, and or in which plaintiff's body was unclothed or her intimate parts were exposed. Plaintiff did not consent to the depiction as she was mentally incapacitated, as plaintiff was rendered temporarily incapable of consenting to, anything, because these are allegations of narcotics being given to her. Additionally, plaintiff was mentally incapacitated as plaintiff was rendered temporarily incapable of consenting to being featured in an intimate visual depiction as defendant. So let's move to page 18. Defendant Combs administered to her a narcotic or intoxicating substance without her consent. So like I said, these are allegations and will have to be proven in a court of law. So over here in the United States of America, you are innocent until proven guilty. As Combs administered to plaintiff a narcotic or intoxicating substance without her consent, Combs knowingly, willfully, and or recklessly disregarded that plaintiff did not consent to the intimate visual depiction. Combs disseminated or published the video without plaintiff's consent. So in other words, he filmed the act and, gave her some narcotics. All these are allegations. Allegedly gave her narcotics, allegedly did what he had to do. And, filmed the encounter, passed it around to some friends, allegedly, without her consent. So, like I said, these are all allegations, but to her, to the victim, these are not allegations. But to us, we're, and it says Combs disseminated or published the video without plaintiff's consent to her colleagues. To her colleagues, he's showing it around town to her colleagues. It says that Combs disseminated or published the video without plaintiff's consent to her colleagues in order to cause her economic, physical, or substantial emotional harm. Substantial and emotional harm. Plaintiff would be inidentifiable to others from the intimate images or from the circumstances in which Combs disclosed the images to colleagues of plaintiff. Under New York State civil rights law, plaintiff is entitled to an award of compensatory, as I said, compensatory and punitive damages, injunctive and declaratory relief, attorney's fees, reasonable court costs, and other remedies as this court may deem appropriate damages. So we have a fourth cause of action. As a fourth cause of action, the NYC, New York City Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act. Plaintiff repeats, reiterates, and realleges each and every allegation made in the above paragraph of this complaint as if more fully set forth herein and there. The above described conduct of defendant Combs, including but not limited to defendant Combs' physical and the assaults of their plaintiff on their plaintiff, in New York City constitutes a crime of violence against plaintiff and is a crime of violence motivated by gender as defined in New York City. Defendant Combs' crimes of violence were motivated by plaintiff's gender as defined in the New York City Administrative in New York City Administrative Code. So we are looking at page 19. Defendant Combs committed forcible acts upon the plaintiff. The above described conduct of defendant Combs constitutes offenses as defined in Article 130 of the New York Penal Law. Upon information and belief, defendant Combs' acts of physical assault illustrate that he is a misogynist. I never heard of that word before. misogynist, who took pleasure in hurting women, and thus his assaults were gender motivated. Furthermore, defendants Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Combs Enterprises, LLC, enabled defendant Combs' commission of the crimes of violence motivated by gender and thus are liable under the New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Protection Act, despite the fact that it was an open secret. It was an open secret that Combs abused women. They continued to employ him. As a direct and proximate result of the aforementioned crime of violence and gender-motivated violence, plaintiff has sustained and will continue to sustain monetary damages, physical injury, pain and suffering, and serious psychological and emotional distress, entitling her to an award of compensatory and punitive damages. Right, so she was seeking for compensation, compensatory damages, punitive damages, seeking damages to punish the defendant, punitive damages, injunctive and declaratory relief, attorney's fees and costs. So she's seeking these attorney fees and costs and other remedies as this court may deem appropriate. So we have a fifth cause of action, New York City revenge porn law. Plaintiff repeats, reiterates, and realleges each and every allegation set forth above with the same force and effect as if more fully set forth herein. New York City Administrative Code, New York City's law against revenge porn provides in pertinent part that it's unlawful for a covered recipient to disclose an intimate image without the depicted individual's consent with the intent to cause economic, physical, or substantial emotional harm to such depicted individual, where such depicted individual is or would be identifiable to another individual, either from the intimate image or from the circumstances under which such image is disclosed. So item 136, pursuant to New York City Administrative Code, plaintiff brings a civil cause of action for violations for the above reference law. Plaintiff was depicted in a video image in which Combs engaged in so in other words, it wasn't consented. Without her consent. So plaintiff was depicted in a video image in which Combs engaged. He engaged in encounter with her without her consent. Plaintiff did not consent to the depiction, as she was mentally incapacitated. As plaintiff was rendered temporarily incapable of consenting, the defendant Combs administered some type of narcotic or intoxicating substance without her consent. As Combs administered to plaintiff narcotic or intoxicating substance without her consent, Combs knowingly, willfully, and recklessly disregarded that plaintiff did not consent to the intimate visual depiction. So let's move on down to, this is page 21. As a direct and proximate result of aforementioned actions, plaintiff has sustained and will continue to sustain monetary damages, physical injury, pain and suffering, and serious psychological and emotional distress. Under New York State civil rights law, plaintiff is entitled to an award of compensatory and punitive damages, injunctive and declaratory relief, attorney's fees, reasonable court costs, and other remedies as this court may deem appropriate damages. So in other words, definitely compensatory damages, punitive damages. So she is entitled because this was assault and battery. This was an assault and battery. So it has, I think it was, what was it, five causes of action. So, you know, so this lawsuit is you know, was brought in civil court, you know, civil, it will be a civil trial. It won't be a criminal trial, it'll be a civil trial. If it goes to trial, if it's not settled. So we know that he settled with the first lawsuit with, what's that, Cassandra, Cassie, Ventura. So that was settled. So let's move. It says jury demand. The plaintiff demands a trial by jury of all issues. So this is page 21. Wherefore, plaintiff respectfully requests a judgment against the defendants, declaring that defendants engaged in unlawful practices prohibited by the New York common law. So the plaintiff is requesting a jury trial. So jury demand, jury trial of all issues. So it says declaring that defendants engaged in unlawful practices, practices prohibited by the New York common law, the New York Services for Victims of Human Trafficking law, New York State Revenge Porn law, New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act, and the New York City Revenge Porn law, in that defendant Combs, he assaulted the plaintiff, and that the defendants engaged in the unlawful distribution of intimate visual depictions, awarding plaintiff compensatory damages for mental and emotional injury, distress, pain, and suffering and injury to her reputation in an amount to be proven. And it says they want to award the plaintiff damages for defendant's breach of contract. Want to award the plaintiff for the punitive damages, awarding the plaintiff attorneys fees, costs, and expenses incurred in the prosecution of the action. So that's this last page. Awarding plaintiff such other and further relief as the court may deem equitable. So equitable, you know, fair, just, and fair. That's equitable means fair. Just and proper to remedy defendants' unlawful practices. So there you have it. Dated New York, November 23rd, 2023. That was just one day before the deadline. So the deadline was November 24th, 2023. So Phillips and Associates, Attorneys at Law, PLLC. So this is the end of the law. So that was 22 pages, so I read just about everything. I might have skipped 2 or 3 lines, but I basically read the whole lawsuit. So it's documentcloud.org. That's where it came from. But I'm not going to hold this video any more, you know, so that's 1 hour and 13 minutes. I was just trying to get a clear, you know, visualization of the lawsuit, but it looked like it's pretty clear, so I can see it pretty good. So, right, so it says it's lawsuit was taken out in the Supreme Court of the state of New York, county of New York. So I will keep you all posted, you know, and myself as well. So we want to see how things turn out. Will this lawsuit be settled, or will it go to civil trial, you know, in civil court, you know? So like I said, it's not a criminal case. It's a civil case, you know, a case of assault and battery among 5 causes of action that were given in this complaint, this lawsuit. So, in other words, Mr. Sean Puppy Combs has to give his answer within, I think it was 20 days. I think it was, I don't know. I think it was within 20 days, so, but he definitely have to give an answer to this complaint. So you have a complaint, then you have the defendant has to come with his answer, you know, and then, you know, probably notify his attorneys. So we'll see how this thing plays out. We'll see how this plays out. Will they settle, or will it be a civil trial? So I'm going to end on that note, and thanks for joining me. Glad to see you. Glad you could be here. Glad you can be here. So, you know, glad you can be here. So, you know, like this video. What? Like this video. Subscribe to my channel. Yes. And I'll see you all on my next video. Bye. So, you all have a blessed one. Have a blessed one. Goodbye.